Hi boys and girls, this is Mrs. Gardner coming at you from my house once again. We are now in the attic of my house, so this is our playroom area for the boys. We have lots of fun up here, and today I get to read to you another Bible story. So the one that I chose for today is called The Warrior Leader. And it is from my favorite little kids Bible, the Jesus Storybook Bible. This is the Bible we've been reading a couple of the other stories from. And I love this story. I want you guys to think about if there was a country that was going against another country in war or another city, what kind of things do you think would be important for them to use? What kind of tools? Oftentimes we think of weapons. We think of swords or guns or shields and stuff that is going to help them to win the battle. Well, in today's story, they don't use any of those things. Their biggest weapon isn't any man-made tool. Their biggest weapon is actually God. And God tells them to defeat the city of Jericho in a very strange way that I don't think most armies would use nowadays. At the end of our story, we're going to talk about why this is so important for us to remember right now as we're in the midst of COVID-19 and how it can apply to us today. So, the warrior leader. After Moses died, God gave his people a new leader. His name was Joshua, which means the Lord saves. Joshua was going to lead God's people into the special land God had promised to give them. By this time, God's people had been wandering around in that baking desert for 40 years. So you can imagine how sick they were of sand and anything yellow, and tents and walking and being hot, and how happy they were to reach the edge of the desert and to see their beautiful new home right there in front of them, all cool and green and lovely. There was only one problem: Jericho. Jericho was a city, but it wasn't just any old city. It was a fortress, and it stopped anyone from getting into the land. The people looked at Jericho, at the big, giant, scary walls around it, at the tall, towering ramparts, at the heavy iron gates bolted shut, at each other. What would they do? No one knew, but God knew. And God told Joshua what to do. But Joshua must have looked surprised, because it was a very odd battle plan indeed. As soon we'll find out. Then God made his people a promise. I will always be with you, and I will never, ever leave you. If you do what I say, your lives in the new land will be happy, and everything will go well. So Joshua gathered his army together. They had their swords and spears and shields. They were ready to fight. But the plan wasn't about fighting. It was about trusting and doing what God said. Joshua's army went marching around the city, day after day. They're too scared to fight, the people in Jericho said. But they were wrong. God's people weren't scared. They were waiting for God to tell them what to do next. On the seventh day, God told his people to march around the city not once, but 7 times. Then God told everyone to make as much noise as they could. Has anyone ever told you to make as much noise as you possibly can? Well, imagine that noise at 39,999 other people making that noise too, and you get the idea. It was ear-splitting. As it turns out, stone-splitting too, because the huge stone walls of Jericho just crumbled to the ground as if they were made of sand. Jericho vanished in a great cloud of dust. So it was that God's people entered their new home, and they didn't have to fight to get in. They only had to walk. Joshua said, "God has brought you safely here. Now will you do what he says?" Everyone said, "We promise." Only God can make your heart happy, Joshua said, so don't pray to pretend gods. No, they said, never. I'm afraid they didn't keep their promise. They didn't do what God said, and many years later, just as God warned them, things would go badly for God's people. They would lose their home, enemies would capture them and take them off as slaves, and God's people would scatter into many different lands. But God's plan was still working. One day, He would give His people another leader and another home, but this home no one could ever take from them. Who was that new leader? Who was the other leader that God was going to send? It was Jesus. Jesus was going to be the great leader. And what was that home that He was going to take them to? It was heaven. That was His kingdom. And He's going to one day bring heaven to earth. So how does this relate to what's going on right now with COVID-19? Just like the Israelites had a battle that they needed to fight, we have a battle we're in right now. It's not a battle that we need guns and swords and shields and spears for. This battle is a battle that we think it's a medical battle. It's a battle against a virus. It's a battle against a sickness. And the people who are fighting the battle right now and fighting hard for it are our doctors, our nurses, our EMTs, and they're also trying to develop a vaccine to help people from getting this. And those are all so important. We're even fighting the battle ourselves by staying away from each other, by social distancing, and hoping that this virus doesn't spread. But there is something so much greater. There's something with so much more power than this virus, and even the doctors and nurses and all the medical professionals. What or who is that? Who has more power? It's God. God is the one that is bigger than this virus. And just like the Israelites didn't even have to fight, God fought for them. We need to pray that God would fight for us. Remember in our story, the Israelites walked around the city and they were praying to God, and God was the one fighting. We need to walk around our city, walk around our houses, and be praying that God would fight. I know our family during this time has gone on quite a lot of walks. As we're walking, I'm going to encourage my boys to start praying that God would get rid of this virus, that He would stop it in its tracks, and that He would heal the people that are sick. As you guys are walking around your neighborhoods, pray. As you're walking around your houses, even walk around the outside of your house and pray that God would protect your house. He is the one with the power. He is the one that can fight. He is the one that has brought down cities with His power. We need to pray that He protects our world with His power and that He would receive the glory. So remember, this is the same God today that we read about in the Bible. God hasn't changed. God is still the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And we need to trust in His power. We need to trust His plan for us, and we need to be seeking Him. So take some time today with your mom or your dad. Get down even on your hands and knees and pray to God and ask God's help in fighting this virus and for His protection. I love you guys, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Continue to seek God. Read your Bibles. If you want one, let me know, and I'd be happy to get one for you. Use this time to draw close to Him. All right, I'll talk to you guys soon. Have a great day.